What's going on, everyone? My name is Simon. I'm the founder of UofTearless. In this series, it is my goal to provide you with all of the information that you would ever need as a high school student to absolutely destroy it in high school, towards the end of high school, and mainly to prepare you for college. So, without further ado, I'm going to talk to you in this video about finding your GPA. And GPA not in the sense of, your grade point average, but GPA in a new sense, which I define as G stands for general motivation, P stands for personal optimization, and A stands for academic application. Okay, why this? Why does this matter? Well, the reason that G is first, general motivation, is because you need something that drives you in university. University is hard, and a lot of people don't get there even if they're incredibly driven, which means that it's going to be way harder for you to get there if you don't have some sort of motivation that's causing you to want to go there. And so in this video, we're going to discuss the first part of this. And I think a lot of you might think, oh, this isn't really necessary. Just give me the study tips, the hacks. But it really goes way beyond that, because none of that is going to matter unless you do and understand what I'm about to tell you in this video. And if you want credibility, I've studied psychology for the last 4 years. I'm in the psychology specialist program at my university, and I'm about to graduate studying memory enhancement and adaptive learning. And I used to really struggle in school. In high school, I had a 4.35 GPA. Came to university, my second midterm, I got a 37%. And pretty much after that, it stayed very, very low. Back then, I used to study 8 hours a day. Now I study 2 hours a day. I never sweat my tests. I never have to deal with any stress or anything like that around midterm season or final season. I pretty much have everything on lock, and the reason is because I've built out a study system, but I was only able to do that because of the prerequisites that I'm about to lay out for you right now. So the first thing that I think we need to cover are, what are the differences between high school and university? Well, in high school, here's how it works. They give you the information, and then they also tell you what you need to know, and then they assign you homework. And I think what a lot of you don't realize is that the assignment of homework is something that we don't get in university. And why this is so important is because they're actually teaching you how to study the material that they've presented in class. Whereas in university, they give you the information and that's it. You are expected to learn it all on your own. They do not tell you how to study. They do not tell you what information is going to be stressed more than the rest. They do not tell you how you need to approach their class, whether it's a memorization-based course, a practice and application-based course. Maybe it's a creative course. They don't tell you these things. You just need to figure it out for yourself. And it takes a lot of time to be able to do this. So my goal is to give you all of the information that you're going to need to figure this out. And I think the main framework for being able to solve problems in university and actually deal with all the things that are going to be thrown at you, because there's a lot of other things that you don't have to deal with right now. For instance, you're going to be doing a lot of extracurriculars if you're not already doing them now in high school. You're going to be going out with friends, trying to meet new people, because you are away from home and you're going to be looking for a connection. Okay, if you talk about the basic 3 psychological needs: competence, relatedness, and autonomy. Autonomy, that is what you're going to get, but it's basically acting in accordance with yourself and being able to make free decisions. You're going to get that from choosing what university, what college you go to, and studying what you want to. The competence will come if you actually learn how to study, but the relatedness is something that you're going to have to be chasing constantly because you don't have your original social support. So it's going to be a lot of time that you're going to be spending developing and maintaining relationships. There's a lot to keep in mind, but one of the main frameworks that I like to use for problem solving in general is that every problem that you solve is essentially solve for X. And solving for X is a much better way of thinking about it as opposed to saying I have problems, right? Because we all have problems. But the question is, okay, you have problems. What are the problems? And what are you going to do about it? And then how are you going to do it? Because if you just say I have problems, it's like, okay, well, that's nice. So do I, right? But it's like, oh, I have problems, and this is what I think is the main one. This is what's going to have the greatest change if I change it, if I address it. And also, how am I going to go about solving it? Because that is another big issue. Just knowing how to do something is half the battle, and then actually doing it is the other half. And so if you don't know how to study, learning how to study is the first half, and then actually doing it is the second half. And a lot of people will just try to do the same thing over and over again, right? You reread notes, you rewatch lectures, which by the way are very passive ways of learning. They're not good for memorization and long-term memory, but you try the same things that you did in high school because you weren't taught any differently. And then you go in later and you find out that no matter how much of that you do, it's not going to work because doing a lot more of something that doesn't work is not going to make a difference. Okay, now let's address motivation, because I think a lot of you are going to be asking, Simon, how do I study when I'm not motivated? How do I get motivated to do well in university? Well, there's a lot to be said for that. And this is the way I'm going to explain it to you. So there's two things that you need to consider when talking about motivation. One is, do you have it? And two, what type of motivation do you have? But I'm going to show you that you don't actually need motivation to do work. You might need motivation to approach work or to approach the type of work that you need to do, but you don't actually need motivation to do it. And here's why. So in defining motivation, we can say that motivation is the feeling of wanting something that you don't have. It is very difficult to be motivated to go find work and to do work when you already have a lot of work to do. Let's discuss whether or not you need motivation, because a lot of you are like, how do I get motivated to do work? Well, you actually don't need to be motivated to do work. A lot of motivation comes from working. Why? Well, you get feedback. A lot of motivation comes from progress and seeing results for the effort that you're putting in. There was a talk that a professor at Harvard gave where he was talking about the main basis behind finding happiness in your work and fulfillment in your work, and there were only two things that you ever needed to do. The first was you need to feel like the effort that you're putting in is being rewarded and you're earning whatever reward that you get from the results of your labor. The second thing is that you need to feel like you're actually making an impact positively on society around you or the people around you. Somebody is benefiting from the work that you're doing. That is what allows for fulfillment. In talking about motivation, the feeling of wanting something you can't have, well, if the thing that you want is behind the work, it's much easier to do the work than to try to be motivated to work. But motivation also isn't always a good thing. If you think about motivation to drink alcohol, to eat sweets when you're trying to lose weight, right? Motivation to sit on the couch when you're just walking around, right? Your body is trying to keep you comfortable, and sometimes motivation allows you to stay comfortable when you are doing something that's uncomfortable. It wants you to stop. You're very motivated to seek comfort. So if you set goals for yourself, you need to understand that you're going to be way more motivated to give up on those goals because you've made a commitment which now illustrates everything that you have to do, and your goal, your objective, your new motivation is to move away from that because that's comfortable. But let's also posit this new argument of where you don't actually need motivation to do the work. How many times have you been unmotivated to go to the gym and you're like, well, I'm just going to go anyway, and you go anyway? Or how many times have you been, I don't feel like studying, and then you study anyway? Not only is motivation not always good, but it is also not a requirement to do the work. So it's much more worth your while to figure out how to study without motivation. And so if you can have a system for working even when you don't feel like it, you don't feel like doing the hard thing, well, it's part of the system, so you just follow the steps, plug and chug, and you end up studying. That's what really got me from studying 8 hours a day to 2 hours a day, was the fact that I just made something, a set of procedures that I could just follow whether I felt like it or not. If you practice the same study system over and over and over again, it just becomes habit, it becomes practice. You don't need to be motivated to do it. You just do it because it's what you've always done. And so that shifts the motivation. I'll go over all the different types of motivation a little bit, but it goes from extrinsic motivation to like, oh, I need to do it for this to avoid dropping out, to avoid failing, blah, blah, blah. And because I want to get into grad school or whatever, or get a really good job, to, oh, I'm just somebody who does these steps to study. And so if you talk about school as a whole, what makes school hard is not the fact that studying in itself is a hard action. It's the consistency of doing the things that you don't want to do for a very prolonged period of time, because nobody's going to ask, how do I study when I'm motivated? But what makes something hard is doing something you don't want to do. And so if you're coming to university, I very highly doubt that you think it's going to be easy. Your reality is now meeting your expectations, except you forgot that those were your expectations. You expect it to always feel easy when it's not. And what makes something hard is doing all of those hard things you don't want to do for a very long period of time. And they don't necessarily need to be hard actions in the moment, but you need to do them for a very long period of time without immediate reward, because the reward is 4 years down the line, maybe 5 if you have a harder degree. And so this kind of touches into intelligence as well, where intelligence is measured by two things, I believe. One is the rate of behavior change, so how quickly you can change a behavior in response to the same stimulus, and also how long you can associate the feedback with your response, like how far apart they can be for where you will still learn from it. So that is all for the G, the general motivation. And in the next video, we will start going into personal optimization, which is how you can apply concepts to help you focus better, to help you do better in school in general, and then optimize all of your schedules, deal with all of the things that you might be going through. And then in the third video, I will go into the academic application to show you exactly how to implement these study strategies that I personally use, that I find work best. And I promise you, you're gonna absolutely destroy it in university and even finish out your high school, make this semester and the next one the strongest that you've ever had. With that, I will leave you. Once again, my name is Simon Katkov, the founder of UofTearless. If you have any more questions, drop them down in the comments below if this video is on YouTube, or I will see you at the next meeting, which I think is in roughly a week or so, where I will do a live Q&A and answer any questions that you have. That's all from me today. Be sure to check out any more videos that I have on my YouTube channel, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.